I forgot what it was tonight.
The 14th of April, Rabbi Furst, Pirkei Avos, Pesach.
Yeah, thank you, Lou. Lou mentioned this Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshivat Samanavshi, Yerushalayim, care of Zoom, Chol Hamoed Pesach. So, yeah, as Rav David Yisrael Neumann said that you know, a piano has, I think, was it 98 keys? A standard piano has 98 keys. I forgot exactly how many keys they have.
You got me.
Um, yeah. Okay. So, so all those keys, each one has a different, a different chord to it, right?
Right,
And that's what makes the piano a musical instrument. If it just had one key, it wouldn't be a very musical instrument, right?
right.
So, and so a person who plays piano, or a person who appreciates the music of a piano, appreciates all the different keys, right? As as you know, there was a famous case, famous case. Yeah, I heard this. I'm sure that there was. I forgot where a tape. I think I heard this that there was a an interviewer um, interviewed a famous orchestra conductor, world famous orchestra conductor, and he asked him if he could come and interview him. So he said, "Well, I'm very busy. I don't have any time." Right? So he said, "No, please let me. I'd like to interview." So I said, "Listen, okay, if you come to my house at this time, so I'll have some time for you. But but you can't talk to me while I'm busy because I have to listen. There's going to be a broadcast. This isn't time of radio. There's going to be a broadcast. There's going to be a broadcast of a symphony from Australia. So he's going to listen. He wanted to listen to the broadcast of the symphony from this over the radio from Australia. And so he was listening. And he came and listened, and then he said, okay, after he listened, okay, um, the interviewer had a few minutes to discuss some things after the orchestra, the symphony was over. So the conductor said to his interviewer, should know that there was um, a violinist was missing. A violinist was missing. So what do you mean a violinist was missing? They said you'll check tomorrow. You'll send a telegram, or if they had phones in those days, you'll send a telegram to the conductor of that orchestra and ask him and tell him that I want to know why the violinist is missing. So the interviewer asked him, well, what do you mean? He says the standard symphony has to have, I'm just guessing, 16 violinists. He says, I'm not sure how many it actually is on 16 violins. There are only 15. Only 15. So I said, how do you know that? He says, because each violinist has a certain, in this symphony, each violinist has a certain chord which he has to play, right? And when it came to one of the chords, it was missing. I didn't hear the chord. Yeah. So, okay, that was the end of the interview. And the next day, the interviewer contacted the conductor of that symphony, and he wanted to know about. He said, "Tell me what happened with the violinists for the performance last night." So he said everything was fine except one, and there was some kind of an accident, or it got stuck in traffic, or something like that, and one of the violinists couldn't come. Couldn't come. So that proved the point, because and so later on, he contacted the famous conductor that he interviewed, and he said, "You're right. I called up the so and so, the conductor of that symphony last night, and you're right." He says, it's like, what is it? What how even okay, fine. They're supposed to play a certain chord, but the um, the reason that the conductor explained to him, the reason that I knew it, and most people wouldn't have been sensitive to it because I, being a conductor, I have to make sure everything is orchestrated completely as it's supposed to be according to the music, right? And the music has a command for each one of the violinists to play his particular note, his particular chord, his particular time. It was obviously that this was missing, right? But most people are not so involved with the actual, right, conducting of the orchestra, so they're not aware of the things which are missing. So likewise with people, most people like we say, well, why can't everyone be like me? Why can't everyone wear a black kippah like me? The same size kippah with me, right? Why can't they wear the same tzitzis as I do? So, but we don't see the whole perspective. We think of everything through our own perspective, which is what we enjoy, and we enjoy everyone enjoys everyone being like them, right? Things that are people who are not like them, that automatically for most people represents a threat, right? People are automatically threatened by people who are not like them, right? Because it's in an immature way, it reflects on their own insecurity, right? If people were really secure, they wouldn't be concerned about what other people are uh, doing or not doing, except in the fact that if they're not doing according to what a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. But if they're doing things within the realm of what a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants, so the fact that they're doing it in a different way than I'm doing it, right? This one has square matzahs, and this one has round matzahs, right? This one is eating romaine lettuce, and this was eating uh, uh, horseradish, right? So, that's this one takes potatoes for carpus, this one takes parsley for carpus, this one takes celery for carpus, right? So, like, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter. So, and when one of when my youngest son was growing up, right? So, for some reason, I don't know where he got it. We usually take celery for carpus, take celery for carpus. And but he said he wanted potatoes. I don't know where you get the idea they have potatoes for carpus. There are people who take potatoes for carpus. There are people. And so okay, he wants potatoes, so he put some potatoes on the carpus plate also. So you could have his potatoes, right? But no, yeah, I have to say this is our minhag. This is what you have to do. So sometimes that was you have to say that. Sometimes you don't. You have to know when to choose your battle, so to speak. You know. But if a person's insecure, so and perhaps maybe and you have to understand what the insecurities um, is stemming from. So in general, when you're dealing with children and young people, in general, you can assume that they're insecure. Right? They're coming from a position of insecurity, so they see things done differently. So that automatically is consciously, unconsciously, that's a difficulty for them. That's a difficulty for them. And so a lot of people they simply are in denial that everything has to be either black and white. It's either like I do it or it's not going to be acceptable at all. But no, really, the real point of view is there's a spectrum, right? There's a spectrum, and it's just like that. You have a piano with the different keys and different chords and notes that each one plays, and that's the beauty of the piano, right? So that's something which you have to try and slowly and surely teach to the children, teach to the young people, because they're going to encounter this throughout life, right? You're going to, it's something to try and communicate to the children that you're going to encounter a lot of people that are doing things differently than you in one way or the other. And it doesn't mean that they're not as good as you. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they have different ways of doing things. And it could be as long as it's accepted and within the realm of, you know, standard Torah Judaism. So it's perfectly acceptable, right? And you should appreciate it. Just like you should learn to appreciate a different chord of and a different note of a key of a piano, appreciate all the different chords and notes of the piano. So yeah, but it's very natural that they're coming from that point of view. Um, so that's part of what the the benefit of having grandparents is that grandparents can give the perspective of things sometimes differently and as a beneficial insight to the children. So, but yeah, I mean, I can understand their point of view. It does. I'm not, But again, since you're dealing with children and their way of looking at things, I think it's something which which you can expect, and but it's not something which is going to be, um, you carried on. Many, Baruch Hashem, you have many families which um, the younger children appreciate the grandparents, even though they may be a little bit different than they are. So yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So and I don't know in terms of the Shomer Nagia. I mean, it could be he feels. First of all, if he's you said he's 11 years old now.
Excuse
So
me, 11 or 12.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So should also should bear in mind also that at that age when he's coming into the age of puberty, so the the they're also dealing with different feelings and um, uh, emotional hormonic changes in relationship to the opposite sex, and so it could be that there are other things there too. So you have to go carefully with this because it's not always something which is um, halakhic based. It could be simply based on his own feelings towards himself and towards members of the opposite sex. So it may not be. You have to judge carefully what and how to approach this particular point. Right.
Right,
Puberty is a very emotional and physically challenging situation for children who are now coming out of this stage of childhood and growing into the stage of manhood, which is not necessarily an easy transition.
good point.
Yeah. So you have to judge carefully whether it's worth making a point about it or respecting his feelings, whether they're halakhically based or emotionally based or hormonally based. So it's hard to know, and these things you have to be careful in terms of what to talk about, what not to talk about. It's not it's some he's becoming a man. There's going to be a bar mitzvah within the next year or so. So it's a it's something which you have to take his feelings into consideration too, regardless what the halacha may be, right?
Right,
So that's something to to discuss and try and be aware of, and then you have to try and judge, judge. It's very common that well, you had a young child and a then and they were once bouncing on your knee and a daughter, a granddaughter also, at one point she was bouncing on your knees. I don't know if it's appropriate to do that to a 11, 12, 13-year-old girl to have her bouncing on your knees, right?
right, right, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to, just like it's you have to be wise, have to be wise. Yeah. So, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't criticize him. I wouldn't, again, you want to respect him as the person that he is, and uh, you know, hopefully deal with it in a way that's, everyone's happy. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, yeah. Um, so yeah, Baruch Hashem, you have, Baruch Hashem grandchildren that are growing and coming into the team of mitzvahs. They all participated nicely during the Seder.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing. One of the children, one of the younger children, got up in his chair and went through the Kilam Chazdos.
Yeah.
Just said all of them. He shouted them. Bouncing around on his chair. Very, very impressive. Of course, when they came down to the four questions, they were all saying them in first in Hebrew and then in Yiddish and loud voices. Yeah, so they participated quite a bit. A lot of questions came out. I had actually prepared a Devar Torah, which I didn't have time to give because it was no. The meal was, of course, we were a little late, so we were a little rushed in the meal anyway. But there was no time because everybody was asking questions and discussing the questions during the meal.
Okay. Very good. Um, um, okay, see, in terms, I have to look it up a little bit. They speak about even the question of yichud. Shina l'nechta b'tzitzi Eliezer. Um, yeah. Okay, in terms of halacha, I'd have to look around and see see the halachas a little bit. I mean, they asked the question about what about a grandson or granddaughter with is sleeping over by the grandparents or something like that.
Yeah,
uh, in general, they permit that it's okay. It's not a question of yichud. Not a question of yichud. Perhaps there are different reasons for it. But I'm just looking over things quickly. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, okay, should be able to get look. It's somewhat paradoxical, as I said, when you have the children growing up and they want to be a little more, but you have even in the same family. It's very common. Bachrim, Bachrim go off to yeshiva, right? And and you want them, then you specifically sent them off to a good yeshiva. You want them to go to the best possible yeshiva, but they come home, and they learn things are a little bit different than their parents, um, you know, developed and or were knowing to do. So yeah, you have to come to terms with that. So sometimes they learn, they pick up this more strict type of approaches to things, and but they have to appreciate that there are, you know, more Mako approaches, and if they're valid, then that's okay. And but when when they grow up and have their own homes, they have the right to choose what they want to do in terms of their own particular approaches to halacha and customs, minhagim.
Right, right.
Mm. So yeah. Okay, so look, tomorrow I'll try and start more on time. Just today was getting off the, the schedule to try and get things worked out more. But basically 10 o'clock should be a proper time to start.
Okay, that sounds great. Have a great
Very
day.
good. Okay, thank you. Enjoy your Holomoid, even though it's a little bit cool and rainy more than usual. But okay, it's also good.
Yep, it's good. Everything's good as long as my roof isn't leaking. I'm happy.
Yeah.
All right, call too,
Okay.
Rabbi.
Fine.
Thank you for the
Okay, be
insights.
well. Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bez Hashem. Bye.